All right. Hello. Good morning. I did a little bit more work on the edit PR thing, and I think we're ready to like wrap up the first iteration, because the fun thing here is to start exploring the actual user experience. So let me show you where we're at here. Okay. So what I'm super happy about is the data structure we use to manipulate the diffs. It seems to me to be like rock solid, because changes are always applied in order, regardless of what commit we actually assign the change to. So that means if I move this number 6 here to update changes, it's still applied last, even though it's on line 6, which is really important. The tricky thing is to display the actual diffs. Yeah, we need to make one change here. Because it's not like when you move diffs around. So here, for example, we actually removed 2 lines, but like that line doesn't exist anymore. So like how would we separate in terms of user experience? How do you actually select the changes you want to move? So currently we at least have to, since I have this UX of like hitting tab to see like the old version of the file, we have to show all the lines that actually has a change to it, regardless of it actually being a change on that line in this version of the file. So one user experience here could be that you actually don't like tab, but they actually hit tab to change the mode, which means that you can move changes in both modes. So we can say, okay, here we are. We would just indicate that there are changes to line 6 and 7 in this mode. Oh yeah, local recording. Let me just, yeah, it doesn't matter. That there are changes on those lines, but you would have to like flip to this mode to actually like select them and move them. So you would very explicitly say, move these 2 deletions to the previous commit. While as here, it doesn't really make sense to move any changes, because this doesn't represent the deletions. They are in the previous version. But then you have like, what about here we have a deletion, but we also have additions. So these 3 are actual additions, while this is a deletion. So how would you do that? And in that case, you probably want to like select all of them. So you bring like the deletion and the additions together. This is super interesting. So, or maybe it doesn't matter, because what you would do, like in this, you would actually select these 3. And when you select these 3, you implicitly also select 194. So the deletion would actually be included in this move. So maybe that's okay. But anyways, this is what we're going to explore. What I did do though, I made another constraint. And that constraint is that you can only move diffs left, which might sound like a too big of a constraint, but it's actually not, because you can, even though I move one diff, a diff left, I can still move it back to where it came from. So I can move it right, but I can't like, it's created here on this commit, so I can move it later. And the reason is that it creates a lot of complexity. I'm not sure if it even works in terms of, because what would happen is that, and maybe this is the case for moving left as well, I'm not sure. So yeah, maybe we can talk about that. So what if I were to, so there are 2 changes here. there's a change. So let's say I removed line 6 here. Yeah, I removed line 6 here, but then I moved that to the right. That means that any other additions after that wouldn't be correct anymore, because the line number they are added to wouldn't be correct, because that's based on deleting line 6, these additions. So let's be very specific. Like I delete line 6 and I add something on line 7. But if I move the deletion to the next commit, that means that the addition doesn't happen on line 7 anymore. It's actually happening on line 6, I think. So that kind of transposing I want to avoid. But in the other case, if I were to remove line 6 to the left, like the deletion to the left, that would still happen last in this commit. So that's perfectly fine. And the addition would still happen on line 7 here. But if we take it the other way around, if I were to move the addition of line 7 to the left, it will be added on line 7 here. But moving over to this version of the file, we would still run the deletion first. So it would still appear on line 7 here, which is the point. Like it should always be the same result. So yeah, I just have this feeling that constraining it to left, moving left is a good thing. And it definitely reduces the complexity of the logic. Now, you might say that's too constrained, but the point is, even though we have that constraint, it's perfectly fine to add. Yeah, this is a lot of complexity then. But the point is, in terms of UX experience, first of all, when you edit a PR, you want by default to move things left. Because what happens during you're building the narrative of your PR is that you do something on one commit intentionally, and then a couple of commits down, you happen to make a change again that should have been in the first commit. It's rarely that you want to take something you did before and move it to a later commit. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we can still split things up. So we can allow you to create new commits in between the existing commits. So if I have changes to a file that I want to split between two commits, but I don't want to impose it on the previous commit, I could just create a new commit in between here. I move my changes in there and give it a description. So you can still do this moving around. And we can even do more stuff. Like we can say in this file, I want all changes to happen in the first commit, for example. And we can do tons of cool stuff. So that's not the problem. What we need is to handle the core experience. But okay, so one thing we have to fix here is that we need to indicate also the old line changes, so that you're able to actually select. So that happens now. That is contained in this file called PR client. When we go and grab get lines and diff by SHA index, we first go and apply the changes to lines. By the way, sorry if I haven't been tweeting my streams lately. It's just we have this community in Twitter at CodeSandbox, and I thought when I tweeted there it will also tweet to my account, but it doesn't. So now I'm tweeting in that community and then I'm retweeting it to like my account. I was confused. Anyways, so what we do is we build up this diff. And what we need to do is actually just show it. And what we do now is that we take a look at the previous diff and the next diff. So that's something I've been playing around with. Oh, sorry. Do we have an example of that? Yeah, so for example here, there's actually some of these lines doesn't actually have a change to them, but they are all part of the same, like when you do a code review or like tell a story, it's not about what specific lines did I add and remove, it's conceptually what did I change in this code. So what I'm playing around with here is that even though a specific line doesn't necessarily have a change, but the previous line and the next line does have a change, we also highlight that line in between to kind of create more focused sections of code to actually tell the story. Just playing around with it. What were we doing? Yes, but now we have the line diff, and we also, so what we need to do, we need to see if there isn't a change. So this is a tricky thing. If I'm not sure where we want to do this, we can do it here. So we can check if we have a diff, on this line, or we have an initial diff, which is like the previous version of the document on this line, then we use that line diff. We can try that first. Initial diff, line number. So that should at least give us, when we go here, now you see it actually highlights both of them, which is good. But now it also highlights this line, which is a little bit weird. But it's just because it actually does have a change on that line in the old document for some reason. I'm not sure why actually, but it does. I wonder, yeah, this is also interesting. Let's see, transpose diffs. I also have next to me, I have the diff on Git for that I can use to like verify. And yeah, I do wonder about this. Like, why does it give a diff on line 195? I don't quite understand that. This doesn't seem to be part of but if we look at the loaded state, we can see that on index 2, you see that we have old line. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Oh yeah, old line, it's more a reference of, yeah. I think what we rather should do here is it's just a reference to where does that line reference old line, kind of. So when we actually add something to an old line, I think it should rather be constrained to be a removal operation. So when we look at old lines, it's only removal that we have there, so that we can highlight removals. And then you could argue, yes, this is the thing that's a bit tricky for me that I can't conclude on. Because what we can do is that we can merge. So in this case, 194 and 192 is actually like the same line. And you could argue that should actually show an indication that it was deleted. But again, it's actually line 94 that was deleted. So it's kind of, I can't quite agree with myself how we want to show this. Because there's one piece of information that we don't have now showing these diffs, and that is the diff. Like, so So in this file, there's a diff of 2 lines because I added 2 lines, which is how you could reference like, oh, 194 is sorry, I removed 2 lines. So you can say 192 is the old 190, the old 194 is now 192, and you could kind of put those two together to indicate that this is the thing that was actually removed. But I don't think I actually have that information available now. Yeah, because looking at, where is it? 192. Where is it? There we are. So we have 192 was removed, and the old line was 194. Yeah, so what I could do here is, what I have been doing is like 192 was removed, and then we had an addition on the same line. So I could put those two together and call it a replacement, which I have done previously, but I've removed it again. Because this is not always the case that it's like a removal and an addition. You also have yeah, well, maybe we should just do that. And then for the one at the top here, oh sorry, we have, yeah, but this is different, right? This is actually showing this is the same line has a removal. Like it's the old line that shows the, or maybe we should rather do that. We used old line for removal, and then we used new line for additions. So when we see, oh, this is interesting. So when we see that the operation is a removal, we use the old line. If we see the operation is an addition, we use the new line. And then I do the same kind of merging. Okay, let's just try that. I really want to wrap this up because I want to invite the others in to start iterating on this, but I just want one example of like how you could do this diffing differently. Anyways, okay, so here we have the thingy. So let's just does that mean we drop the initial lines, initial diff? Yeah, I think it does, because there we only, yeah. Okay, let's try again. Let's remove the initial diff. I've been going back and forward on this a lot. Okay. So if, we can check that, else if line change operation equals -1, then we use the old line. Else, we use the line, and then we have to, what are you complaining about? Oh, sorry. And then we have to change it here again, and again. Initial diff, and then we have initial diff up here. We don't need that anymore. No initial diff. And then we actually use the diff here. Let's see. Okay, so it still highlights these two correctly. And it still highlights these ones, but it doesn't actually. Let's look at the diff. yeah, so this is the thing now, right? So now 192 is so what we can do, I think, is that we can actually check. So we always insert the old line here. I think that's perfectly fine, but you might have a new line replacing the old line. And what we can do there is else if diff line change. So if we already have a diff there, what we're going to do is we're going to say that it's going to be -1. And then I have to, this is because of typing and type of line change operation equals string. So this means that if we have, we can even do, so if the line currently is a removal and this represents an addition, we'll convert that into a replacement, which I thought would work. But it doesn't. And I wonder why. Why doesn't this actually show that 192 is a replacement? Let's see. So we have 192, a removal, 192, and the next one is an actual, oh, yeah, sorry, that's, yeah, exactly, sorry. So we're saying that, yeah, the old line is 194. But we're not adding, yeah, still I don't understand that, because it's 194 that should have, yeah, the replacement, but it doesn't show that for some reason. Didn't I? How did that work? So show modified line diff. Oh yeah, I changed that as well. Let's see. So if it's an actual removal, yeah, sorry. So I need to bring match diff line diff. Let's bring this back. So if it's an addition, we don't show anything. If it's a deletion, we show this thing. If it's a modification, which is when it's an array, we show the same thing. And then when there's nothing, we just show this thing. There we go. Now it shows it. So that's interesting. Like it would be interesting that we would be able to like state that. Do I actually have that information? This is very interesting to me. Maybe, oh, that would be interesting. API changes. Oh, maybe we actually can do this. Because when I hit 194, yeah, no, like old line is 195. No, I would actually have to know the diff here. Yeah, I can actually add that information. Maybe we should do that, because then you would actually see. Well, we should do that. Okay, let's add one more thing here. Just one more thing. So it doesn't only have the old line. It actually has line diff, which is also a number. And what it basically does here on the server is that it just looks at the diff between diff line is just oh, it's my partner asking me for some help again. The youngest is home again, been home for almost 2 weeks, and now he's home again because he has been, I don't know, kindergarten think he has like, yeah, I'll just say diarrhea. But he's been eating like dirt and mud all weekend, so we think it's that. But then there's a rule, he has to stay home for 2 days, and it's like my partner is supposed to be spending this time like doing her own thing, but she kind of ends up being home with the kids all the time. And now if she was working, we would have to split it 50-50, so I'm getting a ton more work done. So now, yeah, we have to change it up a bit. Let me just answer her. Oh, by the way, I was invited to a boat trip from like my first employer. By the way, you have to see this. Can you hear audio? We had this super funny video. Oscar doing the... No, I'm not sure if you can. Can you hear audio? System audio? Yeah, let's try it. It's super funny. Let's see. This is how our apartment looks like every single day. Oh, sorry. He's just adorable. Just give me a couple of minutes. We'll be back and add this diff line thing and see what we can do with it. 2 seconds. You're right. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, so we should be able to say the diff line is the current line. Yeah, let's try that first. Why the hell is this? Oh, line diff. And it's the same here. Okay, so this should give us some more data. Let's see. Oops, that's the commit. But the question is this actually correct? I wonder if it's the line diff should just be the initial. Four, 5. Yeah, of course. This just. Oh, so would that actually work? 192 line diff. So what would happen here? We have 192. We have, oh god damn it. So we have the thing building up 192, and then we have 194. Yeah, but this is a line diff of 1. That doesn't make sense. When do we actually add but this is where 194 was. Yeah, I'm not sure about this. How would we actually, what does this mean? So this line was previously on 195. But it's okay. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I did this wrong. Maybe I reasoned about this the wrong way. So we shouldn't. So if we find. Yeah, so if we find that we already have a diff online, yeah, with the operation string, we shouldn't actually change. Yeah, this is interesting. So we shouldn't actually change. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. So 194, how the hell do we do this? So we already have a 194. Because it's a removal. So we have 194. I just wonder if we do actually have the information we need. Okay, but we don't actually have this information, right? We don't have the line diff. Well, we definitely don't need the line diff. That's just unnecessary information. That was stupid. But I do wonder. So what if adding that operation? Maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe it should have the whole change itself, not just operation on the diff. Because what we could do then is that we could say on so we have a removal operation. So we add the whole diff to line 194, like the whole change. It's called a change. The change, we add that to line 194. So when we do hit 194 again, we see that actually already contains a removal. And then we can figure out, okay, we actually want 194 to be this new change, but this this is what I can figure out, like 192, 192. Oh, because now we added it to the old line. Oh, wait, I think I know how this should work. So when we actually have a change, we add it to both the old line and the new line. And the reason we add it to the new line is so that we can actually let's remove this. Yeah, we can, you see that? Yeah, but that's, yeah, exactly. But we're using the same information but that's okay. That's okay. We just have to split it up. Okay, so maybe that's the difference of, that is the actual difference of initial diff and diff. So when you hit, yeah, here we would say initial diff, sorry, initial diff, because old line 194, yeah, exactly. So this will be initial diff. Everything else is to construct the, okay, let's try again. God damn it. What? Initial diff. Let initial diff record number line change operation. Okay, so we pass down initial diff again, and that initial diff is being used by where is it? Here we go. Initial diff, and this should also have an initial diff and initial diff PR line change diffs, and now the initial line should just show initial diff, because this should always show the removals anyways. It should never show modifications or anything like that. So this can also be simplified. No, but now, fuck, now it's not showing the, oh, god damn it. So we do actually need, okay, so we still need old line to show indications of what can be moved, what lines can be moved. So this is when we have like a removal on the old version of the document, but we want to enable moving in the new version of the document. So we kind of indicate that there is a change on the old line, I think, because we do need both of them, right? Even though there's not like a change here, we just want in this version of the document, we want to indicate that you can actually, there's been a change and there's been removal on these two. And then here, why the hell does it show it there now? Yeah, but now this actually shows correctly, but this isn't actually correct now. And that's, I guess that's because we're still using old line. Yeah, so we have an old line of removing 194. Yeah, removing 194, and then we have 194 again, which is an operation of adding, which is why it indicates it as a replacement. But in this case, it's not really a replacement. So how would we differ those two? When do we know that we want to show it as a replacement? Like we do for 192. Like we do here. And what's the difference? It's because we use a line versus an old line. But we don't know that, if that is actually an old line or it's an actual line. So, okay, so what we can do, we only do this, yeah, okay. So if we have already that line has a removal, it's adding it as a string. So what we have to initial diff if no initial diff line change dot line. So if it's not a removal in, so if it doesn't have a removal in the initial document, there we go. Then it shows this correctly, right? That's nice. Okay, this I need to explore this more. Again, yeah, we're showing that we removed 2 lines here. That's nice. If path. Yeah, so here we just added something. So that's also interesting. Like maybe that should be indicated as well, like that it's just additions. Yeah, we're getting to something here now. So if it's add, we should actually in the thingy, we actually have additions here as well. Add. Oh, that's interesting. Why is this an? Oh yeah, this is actually like you see the line doesn't have any contents, so it doesn't show. That's a tiny bug. Okay, but these two are removals. Okay, this is actually starting to look like something. Yeah, so this was a removal. Oh my god, this is beautiful. And then it indicates that these were actually added, and like it's just using yellow as a indication of what changed. Let's look at this one. So again, what does this mean? So PR commit and PR data was removed. Or yeah, sorry. We remove PR changes and PR change type. We got PR commit and PR data in there instead, and we also added these other ones, which is correct. Yeah, this one's interesting. So this indicates that we actually had a change to, we only had 2 removals here though. Why does it indicate that? Yeah, this is where, like, this shows how diffs really work. Like, what the hell is this? And if we would look at the one in like new strategy, let's look at that one. New strategy, I'll bring it over here. So if we were looking at, yeah, new strategy, you see that like it's just a complete mess of stuff. Like, it's, how the hell do you review this? It's just insane. Like, I'm not blaming Git. It's the computer trying to reason about something it can't reason about. Like, the computer can only reason about lines added and removed. It can't reason about the context of the change. It doesn't understand what a change is. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to explain, like, give an indication of change, not literally what lines were removed and added. But yeah, this is really how it changed. But I am a little bit unsure about this stuff. Let's have a quick look. I really want to wrap this up. And now it's working really well. So, and there will be tons more iterations on this. So we're on 0, 1, 2, 3. We're on SHA index 3. Why are we still seeing the line diff here? Didn't I remove that? I have to refresh. Oops. Yeah, there we go. So we're on SHA index 3. We're down at pending files. Let's try to reason about this. Sorry, initial commit hash. There we go. Okay, so it states that we actually removed something on line 27. And maybe yeah, and that's that one. So that's correct. There was a removal of something on line 27. But what about 29? It indicates that there was a removal on line 29. So it does say that there was a removal on line 29. And then the addition was initial commit hash. Yeah, so yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, so this basically says that what we really did is that we removed the current commit hash on line 27, but now that is actually on line 29. So even though, yeah, so this is the tricky thing. Like, we want to expose line removals from the old version of the file. If we didn't do that, it would be correct, but then you wouldn't be able to select line removals in this version. So if you were to, like, if you wanted to actually remove 29. Yeah, so the interesting thing is that 27 and 29 actually represents the same operation. It's this operation. And we don't really want to display it. Yeah, that's the thing, right? We don't want to display it if we actually have a removal on that same. So how would we do that? Maybe we could, no, because we don't know that here. I think this will be solved by us not actually inserting just the operation, but actually inserting the whole diff or the whole change. Because then when we go through it, we can look at operation still, but we can also look at both the new line, the old line, but we wouldn't be able to infer like across, that's the thing, like across lines. God damn it. This is difficult. could we say that if maybe, okay, so this is about rendering, right? So when we render it, we can say that, okay, we're on line 29 now. Or basically how do we even hit 27 in this view? Oh yeah, sorry. We do hit that because we also add it to that one. Maybe that's the problem. What if we don't add it to this diff, but when we render it, we also show, but then we have the same problem. Yeah, we just have the same problem. We just move it. I would have to know, like what I would have to know is if I had a full change, I could check that. Okay, now I have this initial diff on the old line, and then I could check when I try to render that out, I could check. Yeah, do we actually have something on the new line? Yes. Yes, that's the thing. Okay, we're going to do this. I can't help myself. I'm getting completely obsessed by this. So we're not going to actually show the PR line change operation. We're actually going to have the actual PR line change. We're just going to change this. Diff. Oh yeah, it's transpose diff PR line change. PR line change. Not operation, not operation, not operation. And so here we actually have to do this line change. Oh, sorry, now I removed that thing. We do this, then we do this, and then we make sure that these actually return line changes. And then in the index file, we just have to, yeah, we have to change this line change diffs. Okay, this is going to give us more flexibility no matter. So we do line diff operation. Yeah, we actually have to, okay, let's change this. So there might be a line diff there. Oh, or undefined. Yeah, so that's okay. And then we basically do this. Okay, I guess that's okay. We'll do the same. Line diff operation. Okay, so I think this should at least have the same thing. Cool. And then in new strategy, I talked about here that we actually, yeah, what did we talk about? So 27 and 29 are actually related. So now I should be able to say, where's this thing? Oh, we don't need this. So now I can say, and what can I say? God damn it. Where is it? Where are you, bastard? Okay, 29, 27, and I said that now we have an old line there, and then we're adding, and we have a new line. So when we add this one, we can check. We already do. We already check if we have that line. This is what we're doing here. So if we don't have 29 in the initial diff, but I already have 29, then we can check. We can say that we are we should just be able to remove the old line. Yeah, so what we're going to try here is delete diff line change old line. No, not, sorry. Delete old line. So we're going to delete this old line because we're managing it here. Shit, this needs to be commented. Yeah, but this is exactly what we wanted, right? Wow, it actually worked. Wow, that's beautiful. Whoa. Yeah, and this looks like a complete mess. So 51. Yeah, this is interesting because now 51 is gone. So I can't like say, well, yeah, but that is this change, right? Yeah, it's just confusing. Git is confusing, or diffs are confusing because 54 actually represents 51 now. That's like that removal, I think. Let's quickly check that as well. So this is line changes, and this is, yeah, here we are. So what the hell is 51 pointing to? Okay, so we have 51 here. Well, first of all, here we have 51. And that's inserting commit chars. I wonder why isn't that highlighted as a change? And then we go in and we actually, okay, we override 51 with an old line. Yeah, so this is a thing. This can also happen, that we first insert and then the old line indicates a removal. That can also happen. It's kind of the reverse. And then, but why does 51 suddenly get removed again? Oh, probably because, oh, yeah, that's something I don't quite understand. What the hell is happening here? Anyway, this is like the super tricky part of the user experience. It's having a UI that allows you to select any change, deletions and additions in one view, in a way that makes sense. Oops. I wonder why 51 was removed, because I think 1, 2, 3, those are those things and then those things. So we should really have a 51 here as well. But first we add, let's see, that's an addition, so we're not doing anything here. We're just adding it. I think that's what happens on 51. And then we come to line 54. And there's no old line on 54. There's no existing line on 54. So what happens is we go down here again and we add something to 54. So why isn't it displayed there? Why is 51 removed? Oh, so it does go in here. Okay, so it does merge it on 54. You see that we create this replacement operation, so it does actually hit this. And it does that when it hits 54, 52. So it does hit it when it goes in here. Oh yeah, because we said that it should remove the old line because of that other thing. Like, what? How many scenarios are there? Like, how do we create a simple generic logic for displaying all this stuff? So one very simple way is just, it doesn't matter if it's a removal, like we just treat every diff as like an indicator in the UI, so you can select whatever line you want. But it is quite beautiful that, yeah, wait, this won't work, because so for example, yeah, no, this is super tricky. So here, like this looks great, right? But the problem is when I choose these two lines, it's actually two lines I'm selecting, which well, now that we actually have the diff, we can actually choose both lines. Like we have the actual change. We have the actual line and we also have the old line. So that it will actually select the removal of 27 and the addition of 29 and change the SHA for them. Yeah, no, this would be great if we could make this work. But I do wonder why. So the logic for this is that we're hitting 54 again, which means that we want to remove the old line of 54. But is the problem that maybe given that it doesn't have we only remove no, we don't add the old line unless so here we want to add, okay, so this is a removal, and we add the old line. Given that it does not already exist. And so if we don't already have something, because that's the problem here, we already have Well, that didn't help. Like we already had something on line 51. But I don't think it actually helped. No, it still doesn't show anything on 51. Why the hell doesn't it show anything on 51? Is there something else? Fuck, this is so difficult. So we add commit SHAs on line 51. Then we hit 54, which is a removal. So we have logic that says add the change also on line 51. But we actually completely remove it. Okay, so I guess this happens. So we get to 54. We don't have the line on initial diff. We do have the line on the new diff, and it's a string. We go in here and we delete the old line. But I guess we should only do that if it's a deletion. Like this, but the problem here is the logic doesn't make any sense. Like you can't read this and understand the scenarios. Like that's what I hate about this. It's just way too complex. Yeah, and like now it indicates that something happened on line 54, but it actually didn't. Yeah, no. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. This is getting frustrating. But like this diff would never make any sense anyways. Maybe we should just not try to indicate this. Maybe we should just try to be very blunt about it. Not try to indicate like changes to lines, even though it's super nice to have something like this. We just bluntly go in, and so here it would have an indication here. Like every line that has some kind of change is indicated. Yeah, the tricky thing though is if we do that, so in this case we would show 27 and 29, but they are actually tied together. So if you were to only move, for example, 27 to the previous commit, like that will be weird because you kind of want to bring the whole thing, right? For frick's sake. But what does this actually look like? Now it says it added commit SHAs, which is correct. It wasn't but it also removed 51, but it doesn't indicate that currently. And then 54 is suddenly a replacement, but it doesn't actually have any change. But the biggest problem is that the code doesn't make any sense at all. Like nobody is going to be able to manipulate this or understand or make changes to this. It's just too complex. There has to be a better way to do this. Well, yeah. oh, what we could also do is we could just shove all of them in. So even though it has 27 and 29, if you were to select 27, it would check, it will make sure that the new line and the old line is selected. Because that's how they're tied together. They're tied together by a new line and old line, or line and old line. So it doesn't matter if you check the removal or you check the addition. It will actually move both of them, and that's also indicated. So if you select 27, it also selects 29. That would work. And then it would be the same here. But it's kind of weird that, yeah, I really like this. I really like this, that we hide this complexity of, like, we're showing it as it is now, not. But again, like, this doesn't make sense either. We actually removed, like, we actually removed two things. God fucking. How do you make sense of this? Like, what does it mean when you select these two? What does that mean? What we're actually doing is we're selecting the deletions of these two things. That's what we're actually doing when we select these two. But now we're like saying, yeah, bring PR commit and PR data to the other part, but they're already there. It's just on a different spot in the code. Yeah, I have no idea. I know it can be better. I just don't know what that user experience looks like. This and I can't drop it. I'm like constantly thinking about this. But maybe I should just commit what we have now, and then I'll need to take some time to reflect on this. I need to take a few steps back, because now I'm more into like what we have in terms of data and state, and thinking about like what are the different ways we can use it. And that sometimes you discover things that way, but other times you really just need to distance yourself from everything and just think about what kind of experience do I want. What is a change? What is a change? It's some conceptual combination of removals and additions. And what we could also do is that we could actually give it like a hunk ID, so that you can't move lines, but you can move hunks. That's also possible. So that means that this whole thing is one hunk, and then this whole thing is one hunk. And I think actually all of this is one hunk. Well, we can actually see that here. Yeah, so you see that's what these indicators are. These are hunks. So this is one hunk, and all of this is another hunk. But that here you might want to, well, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that's a better way to look at it. But again, like what you would... I just don't know. Because what we could... Yeah. Maybe that's actually better. Again, it's a constraint. Like we needed everything to be line-based to do the transformations. But we could make this selection. So what would actually happen here is you wouldn't have these like additions and... Yeah, that's interesting. You wouldn't actually have additions and removals. You wouldn't have any of that. You would just have a hunk has a line start and a line end. And all of those lines are marked in yellow to indicate that you made changes in this section of the code. Do you want it to be in this commit or do you want it to be in the previous commit? And that's what you actually move. And then you could, when you do the flip, it shows you that hunk in the previous version. So in this case, yeah. So you have like hunk start and hunk end in the new and the old version. So you will kind of just see the whole selection kind of bump up and down. Because it's typically like a few lines diff, like a couple of lines. So you would see you would see only the contents of the hunk changing, and you would kind of see it bump up. And that would also give us an opportunity to show them at the same time. So maybe you don't even do this flip, you just hover it, and then you would see that hunk in the previous version of the code to see what has actually changed. That's interesting to me. And we wouldn't even have to use this yellow. We could actually just indicate it in the gutter here. Because that's also the point. The focus should be the code, not the colors. Okay, I am starting to like this. So we keep everything as is, but we rather have each line is tied to a hunk index. Well, a hunk ID, and the ID would be the origin SHA index and the hunk index. What would that do when we move? So what if there were already changes? Yeah, well, what does that do to... So what if there were already changes? What if there already were changes here and you move this hunk here, but they don't line up, right? So when there's an intersection between two hunks because you're moving things around, what happens then? Of course, both hunks are actually applied to the document. Yeah, but that's something we could indicate. So here, maybe it's like green or something when it's a hunk, and then if we already had a hunk, an intersecting hunk, then it will move to yellow on the parts where the hunks are intersecting, but green where they're not intersecting. Yeah, I think that's the way to go, because you want this like Git does with the hunks. It does like code conceptually. A change to code conceptually means some piece of code together represents a conceptual change. That's something that we have going for us. So given that we think of a hunk as a conceptual change, that's what we're actually moving around. Because a conceptual change is definitely not a single line of code. That's for sure. Like it can be, but that at the minimum, that would also be a hunk in itself. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Okay, so let's just write so we don't forget this. So what we're going to add is a hunk. What should we call it? Hunk ID, which is a string. Well, it needs to, well, we need to actually have a hunk, and we need to have old start. How is it actually represented? PR server. New start, old start. Okay. New start, old start. Yeah, so this hunk sticks no matter. Yeah, so when we select a line, we go and find all the hunks that is, yeah, so I think it also has like end. Lines. Fuck, doesn't actually have that, but we could calculate that. How do we know? How would we know? We just know the start. We don't know the end of the hunk. Well, we kind of do. Like going through this array, we know what the end line, new end line is. Okay, I think we actually have to add the hunk after we have gone through this. Or at least add the end line. Old end number. Yeah, so we go through it. We know the start, an old start, so we can add the hunk for every line. And then, like, you could argue that we send the hunk separately and stuff like that, but it's just simpler to include it for each line. And then when we iterate this array, we know what the final line and old line is, and we can just add that to every item of this array. We have to go through it again. Oh, wait, no, of course. Yeah, this is nice. We can, let's write this out. So we can actually create the hunk here, which has its, this is great. New start, old start, which would be current line and current old line. And then we have end start and end old. Oh, sorry. New end. What the fuck? New end, old end. And we just add this hunk to every item in the array, but we keep updating these two values as we iterate. And since they reference the same object, when this is done and we return it, it will have the correct new end and old end. Nice. Yes, that's how we're going to do it. And then we're going to basically go through the changes again. We're going to mark every line, give an indicator on every line. It doesn't matter if it's an old line or on every line here for new line. And yeah, or if it's like we go through every line, and yeah, that's a tricky part. Like we need to figure out, yeah, we'll figure that out. Like we want to select the lines that are part of a hunk. Currently that information is on every line. So if there are like, as we can see in the diff here, there might be like 1, 2, 3, 4, like there might be actually several lines between the hunk, which means that we also want those to be highlighted. Yeah, but we can easily do that with a variable. Like we know when it should stop coloring. Yeah, we know that. I wouldn't worry about that. Okay, cool. And then when you select one of the lines, it has a reference to the hunk. So it selects all the lines. Yeah, it actually literally selects all the lines based on new start and new end. But only a few of those are actual diffs, but that doesn't matter for our logic, because that actually takes every single line and transforms it to the previous commit. Will render out correctly. Yeah, that's conceptually a good thing. Okay, we'll have to stop there, but yeah, I'm happy that we got to this place. So this should be very straightforward. I'll probably play with this later, and I have something to show. Well, tomorrow is actually a holiday here in Norway. I don't know if I'll be able to stream, but yeah. No, this is going to be good. That means there's no, like, when you flip this around, it shows just the previous code, but it's all select. Yeah, this is going to be great. Because it's like, it's this explicit line by line removal and addition that I really don't like. Because you just have a previous version of the file, you have a new version of the file. And there were changes made there. How do you highlight those changes? in a conceptual way. You don't really care about what lines were removed and what lines were added. It's conceptually, how did that file change in this area of the code? That's how I think about it. Anyways, thanks for following along. I'm not sure if this is interesting at all, but it really helps me to crack this one, because it's so conceptual and I have to like reiterate and talk about it. So for me, this is super helpful. But yeah, excited to show the next iteration, and then we wrap it up so that we can bring in some more people to talk about the actual experience of this. Cool. Bye.